I'm so proud of my 3 kids. I got 3 kids right now that are all married, and they married well. They, as I like to tell my kids, when you marry, improve the gene pool, okay? You know what I mean? I mean, just marry up. All 3 of them married well, and they're walking with God, and they love God. But you know something? I tell people when I tell that to them, I say, but you know something? I don't take any pride in that, because I realize that tomorrow something could happen in the lives of one of my kids, and they could get ticked off at God and walk away from God. It happens all the time. So they got to keep their guard up, and I've got to keep praying for them, and so do you for your kids and your grandkids. The next generation is always at risk. If you don't believe me, go from Joshua to Judges, the very next book, and flip over to Judges chapter 2 with me. In fact, I'll give you the verse to save you time. It's in Judges 2:10, and it talks about the fact, if you pick it up in Judges 2, verse 7, it says, and the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua, in verse 7, and all the days of the elders who survived Joshua. In other words, the people served the Lord as long as Joshua was there, and as long as all of the next generation of leaders, the elders who were younger than Joshua, were there. But then go to verse 10. It says, and all that generation also were gathered to their fathers. Now, you know what gathered to your fathers means? Okay, you checked out. Okay, as Gary Richmond likes to say, you took the big dirt nap. Okay, this is it. You're gone. So, until they all passed away. And then it says this, and then there arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord, nor yet the work which he had done for Israel. Then the sons of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served false gods, the Baals. Within 2 generations of the crossing of the river, the people were not walking with God. So we can't believe that the future is a guarantee spiritually. And that's why it's important to make sure that you do all you can to pass on your faith to the next generation. That's why he wanted to do this memorial, to prompt the telling of the story of what God did in a previous generation, to show his mighty power and his attributes. You got to pass it on. That's the second thing we learn. And that is that you cannot pass on what you do not possess, so keep your own faith growing. Because the reality is, what happens to the next generation is probably going to happen after Dale is dead and gone. So it's out of my control, except all I can do is to try to pass my faith on to my kids in such a way, and to my grandkids as the Lord gives me a chance to touch them before I die. For some of you in this room, your great-grandchildren, friends, neighbors, kids in our church, pass it on. But to pass it on, the best thing you can do is to keep your own faith alive and growing. That's why if you look at Deuteronomy 6, which is a great passage on spiritual parenting and physical parenting, it says this in chapter 6, verse 5. Read this out loud with me, okay? Let's read together. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. These words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart. These words shall be on whose heart? Your heart. See, and then the very next verse starts talking about and teach them to your children. But before you teach them to your kids, you got to have them on your own heart. Because if your faith is a phony, if your faith is not real, if your faith is not alive and active, then your kids are going to smell that out. This generation today, they smell hypocrisy so well. So if you are one thing on Sunday and you're something else on Monday, and you stand up and you sing on Sunday and you sing a different tune on Monday, man, our kids just pick up on that. Yeah, and they'll play the game while they're little and while they're in junior high and high school even. But when they check out of the home, they are more likely to become what you truly are than what you pretend to be. That's humbling, isn't it? It's very humbling. It challenges me to try to say, Dale, be real. It's one reason why, for example, I had to get up today and just say, yeah, I'm a little discouraged. But with the Lord's help, I'll get over it on this next step thing, because we are God's people, and we're going to press on doing God's ministry with or without new buildings. But I think the Lord is going to teach us. I think the Lord isn't done yet. So I am encouraged to see what you will do in the coming weeks as the rest of you decide to respond in whatever way the Lord prompts you. But at the same time, see, my kids listen to my sermons. And if they know I'm a little discouraged, and I get up here and say I'm not, they know I'm a phony. So this is how in all of our lives, whether you're dealing with next step or whether you're dealing with pain in your life, maybe the struggle you're having is facing an illness or something that scares you or something that causes you to question God or wonder, Lord, where are you? Maybe you're going through a hard time in your life in some other area with illness or disappointment or the loss of a job. One thing I would encourage you to do is you need to process your spiritual journey out loud with your children. And let them know that at times you get full of questions. At times you doubt. At times you struggle. Because if they know that that's a normal part of the spiritual journey, to have doubts, but then to take them to Scripture and to resolve them, to have fears, but yet then to focus on the Lord and get beyond them, to have questions, but then go to the Lord and seek to get answers, and in all of it, to trust the God of the Scriptures. See, they need to see you processing your faith so they learn to process their faith when they have questions someday.